There are three ways that our spirituality can engage with the world, or how we can think about our spirituality relative to the world. So, the first reaction is when we encounter the world, we run away from it. We disengage from it completely. We take ourselves out of either an individual situation, or, we could do the ultimate spiritual renunciation and take ourselves out of the world, become a monk of some kind, a sadhu, or a forest dweller. Take ourselves away from society, away from human engagement. We can do this in small ways too, though. If we might run away from certain social situations, we might run away from certain jobs or certain tasks at our job or different subjects in school. We might disengage, run away, flight, which is a valid response. It's not that this is cowardly. Sometimes you do have to take yourself away from certain situations in the world. And some people can do the ultimate renunciation and redefine themselves, find out who they really are, and have just a relationship with God and take themselves out of society completely, with varying degrees of success, and hopefully without any degrees of delusion. Then there's a second way to engage with the world and survive spiritually, and become enhanced spiritually. Getting away from the world, getting away from situations, you can survive that way, spiritually, emotionally. There's nothing wrong with that, but we think of it as cowardice. But the second way is you steel yourself to withstand whatever kind of situation you find yourself in, or whatever kind of spiritually trying situations that you might find yourself in. There's a lot of things in the world that test our spirituality. Other people's beliefs, other people's opinions, yes, but also things we thought we should have gotten, or things that we thought God would allow us to keep having, maintain, or get for us. Or, if we're doing spells or some kind of magic, expect spells to work. Even if our relationship to God is transactional like that, a lot of the time we expect some kind of maintenance of what we have, or getting something that we asked for again and again and prayed for again and again. At least what we have being maintained. A lot of what we lose, when we lose it, our beliefs are tested, our spiritual fortitude is tested, and our ability to withstand the doubt that creeps into our mind is tested, and hopefully we come out stronger. But we can steal ourselves away from this negative influence the world might have against us, not by necessarily running away from these realizations, but looking at them. And, if it's more of a mundane, not necessarily running away from social situations that we fear, or subjects that we fear, or people that we fear, or tasks at work that we fear. Not running away from them, but gathering up all our courage and gathering up all of our fortitude so that we can accomplish. And most people do this. I think the vast majority, society upheld the way that it is, the vast majority of people would have to do this for society to exist as it does. Because there's plenty of people we don't want to talk to. There's plenty of social interactions we don't want to have. And there's plenty of social niceties that we don't like to observe, but we do anyway. And I see it done day in and day out. I see people's strength, people gathering up their courage and their bravery, sometimes to do just a simple task at work when they're very, very tired, or to tolerate certain people even though they really don't like that person. There's something deep within us, a well that's far deeper than I think most people realize. It's said that Vedantists and people who study the Upanishads, the Upanishadic wisdom, the seers, the ancient seers, have posited that we each have two souls, two kinds of souls. This is the best way to describe it. Nothing is two ultimately, everything is one ultimately, but practically, there's two different parts of divinity, of soul deep within us, two different souls, one observing, one dispassionate, one not having any reaction to what's happening before us, one not attached to the person that we are, just observing, just being, and then the other soul that is very much invested in who we are, what we want, and the game, the story as it unfolds, very much invested. It's not just ego that makes us invested in our story, or invested in who we are, invested how things work out. It's that other soul that would have to be deep within us, just as deep as the observer, for any of this to matter. While it is ultimately a game, a story, but there has to be a piece of God within us that is engaged in the individual story that we're living. And most of our stories aren't very romantic. Most of our stories aren't very big, epic adventures. I think that people's lives could be more exciting if they realized how much experience they could have with so little. How much data is in 1 square foot of their world, just even in this room. How much understanding you can get from just looking at 1 square foot of space and thinking about that square foot for a long time. Whether it be carpet, whether it be wall, paint, a picture, especially a statue or a picture, especially spiritual. Stare at that for longer, but just really thinking about any little part of your world can give you so much experience. Every experience we have is happening within us. It's not something that the external world might inspire it within us, but everything is happening in our brain. And through our perception, through our eyes, through our sensing organs, through our organs of engagement with the world. But it's all happening within us. We might be being poked in the right way, but all of the experience, happiness, sadness, pain, misery, hope, joy, it's all happening within us. And what we read into our world, or the significance that we get from it, or which parts of it are significant, or which parts are interesting to us, is entirely our choice. There's so much to experience in even a small life, a limited life, a life that you wouldn't even necessarily want to read about, but to live it and to use it and to experience it to its fullest, everybody's life could be so much more interesting. It doesn't have to be like it is in the movies. There's nothing very romantic about thinking about a small piece of your world or truly engaging with it. But that's what makes every ounce of creation matter and significant. So there is that piece of God within us that is very much invested in our experiences. And we can choose to experience more, we can choose to feel more, we can choose to think more, and to not think the same old thoughts, not get stuck in the loops of worries, of former pains, former trauma. I know it's easier said than done. I have my own trauma as well. But to not get stuck in endless loops about the past or worries about the future, but to truly engage with the present. That transforms a life. And it's hard to teach, it's hard to convey an understanding about this, even the limited amount that I have. But there's so much information. Staring at a leaf, a piece of grass, I've done this, and you start to notice all the little tiny qualities of that blade of grass or that leaf. And if you hone in on it and focus on this leaf, that leaf becomes your entire experience if you direct all of your senses towards this leaf and towards analyzing every little line, every little change of color, every little way that it engages with the light. That little leaf becomes your entire reality. But that little leaf provides you with so much experience and so much thought. You truly roll it around in your head. But, as I was saying, The second thing is to gather your fortitude and engage with the world, but do so in a way that is beneficial for you as well. If you're the first way would be, not if you're not drinking anymore, don't go to the bar with your friends, or get new friends. Second way that we're talking about now is go to the bar, but instead of drinking alcohol, bring your own tea or lemonade, or order something that doesn't have alcohol in it. It's harder. You're there. You have the influence of it right there. It's more difficult, but maintaining your own resolve and choosing to be more than the influences of a situation is how we can survive spiritually in this world. So that's just one example, but I think you get the gist. It's harder to engage a lot of the time, but it's what most of us have to do. The third way is it's the hardest. I know I'm laying this out like the easiest is to renounce everything and go off away from society, but we're so attached to everything here, and so much of who we are is tied up with other people and with a job, with school, with the friends and family. That's hard in its own way. But also engaging and maintaining yourself spiritually, the second way, is also very hard because all the influences are right there. And it's hard to not get swept away. And once again, in many ways, most people do get swept away by influences rather than maintaining that special spark within themselves and growing that spark or letting themselves shine. In a lot of ways, I think most people are swept away. Nobody's swept away completely. Very few are swept away completely. 1 and 2 has their own challenges. The third way, I think, is still the hardest. The third way is to transmute, to use the passion of, let's use our bar example, to go to the bar and, you know what? Yeah, drink, but when you're drinking, direct all your thoughts towards all that passion that maybe drink gives you. Don't allow yourself to be dragged down into the mundane. Be drunk with ideas about God, about possibilities, about hope, about uprightness. Allow your drunken silliness to be focused on spiritual or positive things, and do not let your mind fall an instant into depression, anger, sadness, or dullness, which alcohol does give you dullness. Using that drunkenness, grabbing hold of it and forcing yourself, using that energy and forcing yourself to be a better person while you're drunk, for using that example. Or let's say the awkwardness of social situations. Third way is to be completely vulnerable and be honest about your uncomfortableness of a situation, assuming the situation is just uncomfortable and it's not inappropriate. Take that weirdness of a situation and use that passion and direct yourself through the situation, or to get better at the situation. Grasp hold of the unease and use the unease in a situation. Transmute it. It's more difficult. There's ways to use your sexuality to worship God, or you with a partner to direct that spiritual energy up the spine instead of out of the bodies. But that way is very difficult. It's the easiest way to fall from. To use what usually would carry one away from soul and into material, to use that and direct it into a different direction. It's the hardest way, but it's a way. Usually the people that are attracted to that way are attracted to it for the wrong reasons and fail to use it correctly. And those who would succeed in that way are not attracted to that way. Left-hand path tantra type stuff. It's very sexy. It looks good on an album cover, and it sounds fun. But most people who think that it's sexy and try it, it's just more waste of the precious little energy that we have, and they do it incorrectly. don't really have a teacher, and they end up more attached and stuck in material and wasting the energy that they have on just materializing themselves. I think that's the way that it usually goes, because it's the easiest way to fall from. There's no perfect way to move through this world. To maintain yourself spiritually, to maintain that spark within yourself, to understand what that spark is. And even if we're not talking about spiritually, there's no perfect way to move through this world. But these are 3 ways that you can engage with it and think about how you engage with it. And maintaining yourself spiritually and maintaining that spark within yourself, and not losing your integrity and not being swept away by society. There's no perfect way to do it, but these are some ways to think about doing it and how to engage with society and maintain yourself spiritually. That watcher within, it's also you. You can feel the 2 parts of your soul. You can feel the watcher within and just observe and not be attached. And if you can contact that part of yourself and really feel that part of yourself, emotions will be easier to control. You can watch what's happening to you without feeling swept away by it. You can really touch that part of your soul. And once again, dispassion is not disdain. Do not confuse the 2. Do not disdain everything that you're watching while you're watching it. Just watch, just observe. The 2 feelings are very different. And the other part of yourself that's very much invested, the other soul within you that's very much invested in your story. There's all kinds of ways that you can frame your life and what you're experiencing, and touch that other soul within that's invested in the story, and make the story a good one. Whatever you're going through, how you frame it affects that part of yourself that's invested in your story. But it's almost all about the framing, how we look at something, not what something is. Once again, all the interactions, all the reactions are happening within ourselves. We choose how things look to us. You can make the 2, by using each part of yourself, each soul within you, by reframing everything correctly for one that's invested, and then being able to touch the one that is dispassionate observing. By getting in touch with these 2 souls within you, you can live a much better life, much more interesting life, and a much happier life. At any rate, I hope this video was interesting. If you like this video at all, hit that thumbs up down there. It really helps out the channel. I really should start saying that at the beginning of the video, because I feel like not everybody gets to the end. And feel free to leave a comment. That also helps out the channel a lot. If you like this video at all, if it helped at all, feel free to leave a comment. I love hearing from you guys. Feel free to share this wherever you like. At any rate, thank you very much for watching, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day.